Are they going to continue, or should they? What place does the library have in our life right now?
It's a fair question. I mean, and librarians themselves are asking that question all around the world. Because people are getting more and more access to the internet at home, why bother coming to the library? Well, many libraries are positioning themselves as portals to information on the internet. They subscribe to databases that give people access to information, published information, and not just Wikipedia. Don't get me wrong, I think Wikipedia is a great tool, but it's a place to start your research, not to finish your research. And so the library can help to provide those sorts of online tools, and in the United States in particular, that's what they're doing. Having said that, also in the United States, library use is going up in many places. People are still coming to the library. People like to read novels on paper, not on their computer screen. And I think most importantly, the place that the library has in the community at large is librarians have been dealing with these issues forever. As long as this profession's been around. It didn't have to wait for the internet to come around for us to be interested in teaching people how to use information resources. So librarians are very often the professionals that can work with the Ministry of Education, with the school system, to help put together curricula to teach students how to do these sorts of things.
But for that, the library has to be very well equipped. What is the situation in Turkey with libraries?
Well, from what I've seen, it is the same as many other places in the world. There are very many dedicated professionals, but they are not receiving the level of funding and support often from the government. Now, that depends on the local economy, of course, because people don't often place the library at the top of their list for things for the government to fund. And that's part of the reason for these programs as well, to educate people about what the library can do for them in their communities. So, but I've seen, as far as the library profession here in Turkey, some very, very excellent people who are, many of them known in the international community as well, that are working with these programs. And some of the libraries are more well equipped than others. The school libraries in Turkey, it would be wonderful if they could receive more support from the government to help improve the resources they have at their disposal.
So one thing is the libraries being equipped, but the other thing I think is that the culture has to be in a way so that people actually enjoy or go to the libraries. People, I know in the States, it's like a cultural thing. People do go, you know, you'd have your library card. I don't think I've ever been, personally, been to the library since I've had to write my thesis.
Okay.
So.
It varies. I mean, you're going to find some communities here in Turkey where people do use the library. Most often, they're going to be going for periodicals, people coming to read the newspapers and the magazines that the libraries subscribe to. Very often, students who want to come and use it as a place to study if it's a comfortable location. And then often, internet access where that's available. But yes, you're right, libraries need to do maybe a better job marketing themselves as this is the place to come when you need these sorts of services.
So maybe that could be a part of the project. Can you tell us more details about what you're doing in the project in Turkey?
Well, in Turkey, my main role has been supporting what the U.S. consulate has been doing. When they have needed someone to come to speak on these issues. Before I was a librarian, I was a teacher. I was a reading specialist who worked with 13, 14-year-olds in the United States. And I was also worked with illiterate adults in the United States who had not learned how to read until later in life. And so I have some background to be able to speak with some authority on this issue. So I've acted as a speaker in many ways that Dennis Tucker did today. And also just meeting a lot of the people here involved with the program.
So can you tell us more about the program, though? You're part of it, you come in separate, you know, just to give talks, but like, what is the program doing right now and in what stage is it?
Well, the program with working with the high school students is just finishing up. I think this is about the end of a 3-year project where there was direct contact working with high school students. And actually, you should come back here tomorrow where the Minister of Education for the Istanbul branch is going to be interacting with a lot of the students who were part of this pilot project. So it's bound to be pretty fun, I think. I'd like to see what they ask him and tell him about the project. Early on, I actually spent a whole week traveling all around Istanbul to different school districts and talking directly to students and giving them just basic information about what information literacy was. It was a lot of fun. And so that's ending up. This working group that's been working on this project did a survey of the students to find out what they knew about information literacy, what their attitudes toward it were, and that's finishing up. I believe that the next stage, my understanding of it is, it's going to be moving on to teacher training. You know, that we need to really work more with the people who are going to have constant contact with the students. We were a novelty. You know, you get, the people from Germany and England and Italy who've come in and talked to these students and maybe got them initially interested in it in some cases. But that's not sustainable. You know, it needs to be part of the system here. So the next stage will be having more support for teacher training in this.
So that it can be continuing all along. Can you compare it to the other programs around the world?
That's difficult. This one has been wonderful, okay? Let me compare it to what's been going on in the EU in general. The system here has been very tied in with UNESCO, okay? And been following the protocols that have been set up by UNESCO and doing teacher training on this. So it's not been something Turkey's been doing on its own. They've been looking to the EU and what's been going on there. And initially, they particularly were looking at the Scottish model and the Scots had done a really good job of putting documentation together and a really good program for it. With regard to comparing what's going on here to what's going on in the United States, it's a very different system of education in the U.S. compared to my experience traveling in Turkey. There is, students are a lot more encouraged to interact with their teachers, and it's not such a, I think traditionally here in Turkey, there is a lot of, there's a lot of lecture situations in the classroom where the students are lectured and they take the test and they show their mastery of knowledge. A time-honored way of education. But in this modern world, there needs to be a lot more critical thinking if people are going to be really well equipped to participate in the modern economy and get us out of this mess that we're in right now. So I think in the U.S. we have this history of liberal arts education and student participation in the classroom in that way, and it's made these information literacy programs a little bit easier. As Mr. Tucker said earlier, there's a lot more grassroots action in the U.S. for the creation of these programs.
Yeah, I think it would be more important for schools to take it as a way of educating in total sense. One last question. What about the students? How enthusiastic were they?
The ones that I met were very enthusiastic about it, and a lot of them challenged me on certain things that I was talking about. I'll not forget one of the examples I was giving was talking about finding bias in information, and I used the example about global warming. And because of the United States government position on global warming at that time, I was hit with lots of questions and criticisms from the students. Now with President Obama coming to Turkey for a visit, and that position's changed in the United States, I wouldn't face as much criticism, I think, as I did last time. But they were very engaged. I was working with students at English language, schools that had English language as a significant part of their curriculum, and I was astounded at the level of English of some of these 15 and 16-year-olds here. It was very good.
One question. So you said Cervantes, and well, obviously we know the U.S. Consulate is supporting this. Are there any, who's funding this program, basically? Who's giving you all the support to come here and do this?
But the different programs that are involved, it's a consortium. It's a group of people working together. The United States Consulate, through our public affairs program, we provided the funding to bring Mr. Tucker here for this program today. It's part of my regular budget to be coming here to do these things. Likewise with the Goethe Institute and the Cervantes Institute, Institut Français, and then this conference itself and the Istanbul Technical University, providing the space to do this. It took a community of people to make this happen. So,
hopefully you can get more support.
Yes, it would be wonderful.
As 6 News, we believe in the importance of information literacy, and we give our support to this important project, as we know this is only the beginning.